welcome to the STEM Careers, Career and Technical Education. I'm talking about our Administration of Justice, Legal, and Human Services area. So what we want to do is just do a little bit of a welcome and an overview. And these are some of the things we're going to be talking about and touching on today. Some of this information you will hear as you hear from the bios from some of our panelists, also some of their answers or their responses or ideas that they share may cover some of these areas. So some of these things include, what are the job experiences that they've had, jobs or experiences that they've had in their respective areas. What type of personal or academic preparation helped them along the way? How do they stay excited about the industry during change? As we know that 2020 has been a year of a lot of change for everyone. What keeps the panelists in the industry? What challenges do panelists face in their industry? And also, what advice would they have for individuals interested in getting into the industry? So at this time, we're actually going to move into telling you a little bit about ourselves. And with our panelists, some of them may have their green screens on. They may have you might actually see their office setting. So if there's something that is kind of keeping them from being able to see anything, you might just have to turn off their virtual backgrounds and use their natural backgrounds. But we are hoping that you all are able to hear from them at least with the information if there are any challenges that anyone has. And so what I'd like to do again is mention that Banafsha will be answering any questions in the chat. And Banafsha, and Charlene is one of our panelists. If you all want to message back and forth, that would be great. I'm good at multitasking, but not triple tasking probably. And so you all might be able to help each other out. And for anyone who has questions that you might want to ask me as the moderator or the person going through the presentation, please also ask the question to Banafsha or to everyone, as I won't be able to see those questions in the chat as I'm going through the session. So with that, Banafsha and I both work for Nova Systemic. We work on planning activities in the areas of career exploration in STEM and CTE areas. And so we're really excited to share a little bit more of information with you all today. So moving right along. So just so you all know, Virginia focuses on our career clusters and career and technical education. And the following clusters that will have some sort of representation in one way or another through this panel are related to law, public safety, corrections and security, and human services. In the areas related to law, public safety, corrections, and the security cluster, some of these positions include emergency and fire management, law enforcement, legal services, correction services, security and protective services. One of the great things that we've done is we've included information, which some of this we've received, we've utilized from the City of Newport News. Their school division utilizes the information about the career clusters. But when you get this PowerPoint, you will have an extensive list of specific careers in these areas. So these are just a few that we are kind of highlighting with the career pathways. Some of the human services career pathways include early childhood development and services, counseling and mental health, family and community services, personal care services, and consumer services. And again, some of our panelists kind of do some multitasking in a lot of these different areas. So with that, we're going to talk a little bit about, introduce you to our panelists. Again, if you have questions to put in the chat during this time, please feel free to add them in there, and Banafsha will help us out. And then we'll get to know a little bit about our panelists today. So our first panelist that we have is Charlene Johnson, and she's a probation officer working in the area with domestic violence, and also she's bilingual. So for those of you who are interested or have the ability to speak multiple languages, that can be something that's an asset. As you can see from her training and education listed on the screen, I'll let you all kind of read through those, and then her contact and follow-up information. So what we've tried to do is provide information for you all if you would like to outreach to any of our panelists in the future about maybe being a presenter or being on a panel or speaking. You will have their information. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a bio, and then Charlene will let you unmute yourself and share a few things with us. But just to take out a few highlights, Charlene started her career in law enforcement with the Department of Corrections in Connecticut at the Niantic Women's Correctional Center. Before leaving DOC in Connecticut, she rose to the rank of Lieutenant Maximum Security Male at the Maximum Security Male Correctional Facility. Charlene and her family relocated to Virginia when her husband, Naval Commander Johnson, who is currently retired, reported for assignment at Naval Station Norfolk. In 2004, Charlene joined the team at the Hampton Newport News Criminal Justice Agency. She is assigned to the domestic violence team and carries a specialized caseload and also works with clients that are non-English speaking, which is a great nod to her Panamanian descent. She works with clients who have issues with mental health issues and also challenges with drug addiction. In addition to her assigned duties, she's a certified trainer with the Department of Criminal Justice Services Training, and she trains new officers on the core competencies for local probation. She's assisted in the development of the curriculum and policy development for the areas related to core, and she's also a certified trainer in trauma-informed care with substance abuse and mental health services administration. I know personally that she has an amazing set of children who one lives out of the area, which has been a little bit different, I know, during this COVID time, but then one who is also a college student. Charlene currently serves as a chairwoman, I'll say, of the board of directors for the Center for Sexual Assault Survivors and Healthy Families Partnerships. Some of the things, just so you know, that she's very passionate about self-care and continuous personal growth and feels honored to have mentored over 20 interns. So I wanted to highlight that for those of you who are interested in internship opportunities, there's an opportunity to maybe reach out to Charlene about an experience. Charlene feels blessed to be on measure to have been a military brat and wife for over 20 years. She's the mother of, as I mentioned, two phenomenal daughters, Reagan and Dominique. And Dominique is actually an addictions counselor for the state of Georgia. And Charlene is a fur mom to her Yorkie, Beckham, who is apparently a New York Giants fan in a house full of Steelers. I think I said that right. And she said if she could travel the world forever while eating dark chocolate and enjoying fine dining and eclectic cuisine, that's what she would do. So Charlene, if you wouldn't mind just to unmute yourself and just say hello to everyone so that they have an idea who you are. And just, you know, what was that one point in your life that inspired you to say, you know, I want to go into this path of helping others, either related to the probation area or the sexual assault, you know, helping people or mental health awareness?
Well, first of all, good afternoon to my fellow panelists and to all of those that are watching. I apologize in advance that my green screen keeps going in and out, and obviously I am not very good at computer savvy when it comes to Zoom. So I apologize for that. But to answer your question, Tiffany, one of the reasons why I went into the helping profession is from my mom, who is no longer with me, but still has a great presence in my life on a daily basis. My mom was a bilingual social worker as well as a foster parent. My dad, as you mentioned earlier, was in the Air Force, and I come from a long line of family members that love to work in the community. So that was where my passion started at a very early age. I saw my aunt and uncle, which you know, and the rest of my family members do a lot in the community, and it just gave me a desire to want to work to help others. So that's where I started. I grew up in that environment, just continued to work there.
Excellent. Thank you, Charlene.
You're welcome.
And next up, we have Joyce McMillan. She is actually a faculty member here at Northern Virginia Community College. Joyce McMillan is an associate professor of law and the program head of the paralegal studies at NOVA. She's a graduate of George Mason University School of Law in Arlington, Virginia, and is licensed to practice in the state of Maryland. She earned a Bachelor's of Arts degree and graduated magna cum laude in business administration from Marymount University in Arlington, Virginia. In addition, Professor McMillan earned a paralegal studies degree, summa cum laude, from NOVA. And before teaching at NOVA, she's just all connected to NOVA. We love this. She worked in the chief counsel's office at a federal law enforcement agency where she specialized in equal employment opportunity and criminal law matters. Professor McMillan has worked as a legal professional for over 20 years in the public and private sectors, where her job duties included hiring and supervising paralegals and legal interns. Do you all think that there's a theme that we also have with some of our panelists here in the areas of interns? So, Professor McMillan teaches all of the courses in the paralegal studies curriculum. She enjoys teaching and is dedicated to improving student success, and she enjoys spending time with her family, reading, and outdoor activities. And for Professor McMillan, we have information about some of her blogs that you can also connect to. So, Professor McMillan, if you're able to unmute yourself, and can you tell us a little bit about what got you interested in the area related to, the legal studies and law?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. What got me interested, it was sort of a career change for me. I'm married, we have two sons. Our children at that time were in high school, and I did a lot of research first, which I would encourage everyone to do. And I found that the career area that met my strong suits, like research, writing, analysis, etc., was the law. So the main goal was to go to law school. So I started out in Nova's Paralegal Studies program myself to see if I was interested. The very first class I sat in, I was sold. So as you heard from my bio, I then attended Marymount and then George Mason. But I really loved the law. I loved practicing the law, and I still do so in my spare time, pro bono cases, which mean in the summer I'll handle certain cases and not charge the clients. But if you can imagine for a moment, those of you who are making career choices, the ability to talk about a subject that you love. And that's why I love teaching here at Nova, which I've done for the last 11 years.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So next up, as we transition on our screens here, next up we have Luke L. Art Sevier, JD. He is the Vice President of Business Development with the Division of Minority and Women's Business Development for Empire State Development Corporation, which is New York's chief economic development agency, so as an officer in that area. And so we're very excited to have Luke all the way from New York. So thank you for joining us from way up there. In his role, Luke leads a team in developing and executing programs and strategies for the business development of MWBEs through education and outreach to New York state agencies, MWBEs, and private sector firms who do business in the state of New York. Over the past decade, Luke has held several government leadership positions where he has advised and developed recommendations for improving business processes and development, project management, performance practice, and resource management based on analytical findings. He is a process and performance improvement engineer certified in Lean and Six Sigma Green Belt. So Luke, maybe you could share with us, when you talk a little bit about what that is, because some people may not be familiar with that. Luke serves on the National Advisory Committee to the Directorate of the U.S. Census Bureau and the KBS Ltd. Foundation of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. He has been recognized in both the network journals and the National Black Lawyers Top 40 Under 40 for his service. He's a recipient of the Community Service Award by the Long Island branch of the National Association of University Women, and was awarded an official citation by the Brooklyn Borough President and the New York Commission on Human Rights. Luke has participated in several relief efforts, notably serving as senior advisor and stakeholder engagement lead for the Virgin Islands of the United States government's Hurricane Recovery Task Force, immediately following not one, but two hurricanes, Irma and Maria, in 2017. And also as a translator for the delegation of physicians from Morehouse School of Medicine who responded to post-earthquake medical needs in Haiti in 2010. Luke is a graduate of Morehouse College and earned his law degree at Western Michigan University's Thomas M. Cooley Law School. So Luke, if you wouldn't mind to unmute yourself, and if you could just tell us, what was that moment for you when you decided you wanted to go into this track that you've gone into, or your education? And maybe could you mention what it is about the Lean and Six Sigma Green Belt, what that is? Because I know a lot of people, inquiring minds, want to know.
Sure. And thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
All right. So thank you for having me today to talk to our audience. So my background is I am a career government employee, government servant, and I've worked at several agencies, one of which has been our hospital system, public hospital system in New York, doing labor and employment law practice, and then transitioning to our children's services agency for New York City and doing more operations as their chief of staff to now running our New York State's MWBE service for businesses. And kind of the thread between all of that has been being at the forefront, at the table of making policies, making decisions, advocating for the needs of each community. You know, the healthcare system is one that everyone takes advantage of, everyone needs. Child welfare system, as you'll hear further through administration of justice and health and human services work, is a very vital and very important aspect or an agency within the community protecting the rights of children. And then with the work of our MWBE, Minority and Women Business Development, as you can see with post-COVID, there is that reliance on small business for the economic development of our communities. And so there is that thread of community development, advocacy, and ensuring that, you know, the ones who don't have a voice have a voice at the table. I attended law school, and one of the things that I found impactful about having the law degree with my role is the ability to analyze, is the ability to advocate, as well as the ability to develop policies and look at laws and cases to kind of inform me on what the policies should be and what those procedures and practices should be. Now with Lean Six Sigma, I am, so part of doing all of that, I also am a big, I guess, objector of red tape and bureaucracy. So picture that, having been in government for so long, I cannot stand red tape and bureaucracy. And so there's this process improvement certification and just way called Lean in healthcare, Six Sigma in the business community, all those different things. The origins of it was actually from the car industry, just like the conveyor belt of making a car and looking at, all right, what is valuable to the consumer that's going to get this car, and how much are we putting into this production, and is it efficient? And so it's the ability to look at different processes, look at different systems, analyze what steps are we taking that are value wasted, non-value added steps that does not even contribute to what our consumers need or our consumers want. And then how do we make it small, make it leaner, make it more efficient, so that it's welcomed and it's you know, it's helpful to the end user. And a great example is the DMV process that many of the agencies throughout the country have changed. DMV has now looked at what are their end users needing before having them stand on a long line to be told, this is the wrong line. So they've implemented several different process improvement measures, such as, you know, a greeter at the door, or a kiosk at the front, or maps on the wall to tell you what you need, what forms, et cetera. And so that's just something that, you know, a kind of an example that we could really see as a lean process improvement. And we do it at home all the time, you know, from rearranging our closets to shuffling around our kitchen so that, you know, the refrigerator is not here and the plates and cups are here and you're having to run all over the place. We want everything in like a line or a linear process that's more efficient. So that's essentially what the Lean Six Sigma certification and processes are.
Excellent. Now, I love how you really made it relatable to those of us who are like, I'm not trying to improve a business. I'm not, oh, but in my kitchen and in my house, okay, I get it. So, yeah, definitely if people have more questions about that, feel free to direct those questions to Luke in the chat. Because, I think, go ahead.
So just also, I teach at NOVA as well in the Administration of Justice Department.
Awesome. Excellent. And it's great with everything being virtual too, right? To be able to have that ability to teach, which we will talk about virtual and COVID, pre-COVID, post-COVID with our panelists here shortly. So thank you so much. And next up, we have Mary Beth Sherwin, and you can see her contact information on there. And Mary Beth is a member in the firm of Kaufman and Knowles. Did I say that right, Mary Beth? I'm waiting for her. Awesome. Because Mary Beth, what do people often like to say? Kaufman and Knowles. So
Knowles, yes.
It's Kaufman and Knowles. I just wanted to make sure that you all heard it right. And that Mary Beth is a member in the firm's healthcare group. She chairs the firm's diversity and inclusion committee and serves on the firm's recruiting committee. Her practice includes insurance defense of personal injury matters in the healthcare context, ranging from the representation of health systems and hospitals to practices and individual healthcare providers. In addition to civil litigation, she also defends healthcare providers in matters before the Virginia Department of Health Professions, to include the respective licensing boards. Mary Beth routinely advises her healthcare clients on risk management and medical staff issues. She also provides guidance on healthcare decision-making matters to include guardianship, conservatorship, and medical treatment proceedings. So Mary Beth, tell us a little bit about what inspired you to want to go into law and pursue your career pathway.
So I think family was a driver. When you spend a lot of time with your father and your great uncle at a law office sorting paper clips and organizing highlighters and drawing all over the big legal pads because they're a lot bigger than the regular legal pads, it starts to maybe plant a seed. You go one direction or another. But it's something that I've had in the back of my mind for many years leading up to finishing college and deciding what path to take next, especially when you graduate with a degree in history and French. You're like, what am I going to do with this? The beauty of a law degree, though, I think, is that you can do a lot of different things. You don't actually have to be a traditional practitioner practicing litigation in a courtroom. You can do a lot of other things with a law degree that you may not consider, but if you start exploring, there are lots of different types of law to practice, and you can do a lot of other things with a law degree that don't involve being in a law firm at all. And so I think education really opens a lot of doors, and pushing that education even further is a great way to open more doors for yourself. And that can take a lot of different shapes and forms. So, I even think sometimes, am I going to stay here forever? I've been here for 20 years, which is wonderful, and I'm really happy with it. But who knows what the future holds? And having a law degree definitely makes there be lots of possibilities.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And both Mary Beth and Charlene are in the Hampton Roads area, just so that you all kind of get a sense of how we're bringing people from all around the U.S., kind of our East Coast here, to you all today. So thank you, Mary Beth. And our final panelist here that we're going to talk about is Dr. Cherno Worry. And he's got a lot. We joked and said he's, on the plaza at VCU, but really, he said, I'm in an office, in a boardroom, in a conference room. So to tell you a little bit about him, he was born and raised mostly in West Africa, Sierra Leone, and migrated to the United States in 1997 due to the senseless rebel war that plagued his country for over a decade. Upon migrating to the United States, he attended C.D. Hilton High School and Northern Virginia Community College. Go Nova. He also attended Radford University, where he received his bachelor's in criminal justice, and Walden University, where he received his master's in public safety administration and doctorate in public administration. While he was pursuing his education, he also pursued his lifelong passion of becoming a police officer right here in Prince William County. During his time with the department, he held positions as a patrol officer, crime scene technician. I feel like that's CSI type talk. I don't know. Police mentor, crisis intervention team member and trainer, and a police planner. Upon separating from his police career, he successfully transitioned into a full-time criminal justice faculty position with Virginia Commonwealth University and is currently with this institution where he teaches various classes such as Intro to Policing, Violent Crime Scene Investigations, Principles of Criminal Investigations, and Race, Crime, and Justice. One of the things that he also is notable for is that he has co-authored publications and has written a book that's been published called Impact, a compilation of positive police encounters. Dr. Worry is currently working on another police-related manuscript detailing the basics and preparedness of becoming or facing the obstacles during the police officer selection process. His educational and professional experiences contribute greatly to his teaching and service endeavors at the L. Douglas Wilder School of Government and Public Affairs at Virginia Commonwealth University. So Dr. Worry, tell us about, I mean, we know that you, as we read here, that you came here in 97, if I'm not mistaken, but tell us a little bit about, you know, what really inspired you to start the track that you started on and where you are now. And you can unmute yourself too, as well.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you to my fellow panelists as well. And thank you for everyone that make it today. It's been great progress and stride here of becoming someone and going down the path of career path with Northern Virginia Community College. When I was a small boy in Sierra Leone, West Africa, about 15 or 16 years old, I went through a traumatic event wherein the senseless rebel war that you read about early on, they came into my house and they victimized us, wherein they stole things from us. We were under gunpoint, and I was standing there, a 15 and 16-year-old boy, just listening to everything happen and observing everything happen, and I couldn't do anything for my family at all. So realizing how helpless I was, I made it a conscious decision to either become a protector for myself and my family and those who are in the community. So I ended up going down the path of either becoming a police officer or going in the military. So based on that incident that happened with myself and my family, and we were forced to flee the country. And so we went to Guinea, and then from Guinea all the way to the United States as refugees. And we sought refuge here in the United States, and I've been here ever since. I've went back to visit once, but so far I've been here ever since. And that's what drove my passion of becoming a police officer. And I was a police officer for about 10 years with Prince William County. And I was a student at Nova myself, so I know exactly where everyone sits right now. I've been in your shoes, and I had that passion at the back of my mind to say, I always want to be a police officer. So I lived the life of someone who wants to be a police officer, and then I became a police officer. Halfway through the policing career, I started thinking, what else can I do with my life? Because I'm a progressive type individual. I like to push myself. So at about 7, 8 years in, I got my master's degree, and then I started teaching at Northern Virginia Community College. And then once I finished my PhD, I started seeing my role more into the classroom instead of being in the street, wherein you get into fights and you will not put your degree into the fullest extent. And that was just me, and that was just my personal experience. So I ended up transitioning from a police officer into the academic field. And being a crime scene tech or crime scene analyst in my previous job, I was able to teach the primary leading courses here at VCU when we talk about forensics and CSI type courses. So I enjoy what I do so far. I relate most of my experiences to my policing career and my teaching career as well. So I'm open to taking any questions you may have regarding those. And I look forward to seeing you all in my class at some point.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for sharing that personal story with us. I mean, it's something that I'm sure, you know, many of us could not imagine experiencing, and being able to then do something really positive with an experience that was not positive. So thank you so much for giving back. We appreciate that. So a couple of things that we're going to do here, we're just going to go over a couple more slides and then we're going to turn it over to our panelists for the rest of our time together. But a couple of things which I know our panelists may, touch on with you all is, but making sure that you get involved in associations. In the PowerPoint version that you will be sent, as I mentioned, after this session, either today or tomorrow, in the PowerPoint, with some of our panelists and some research that we've done, we've been able to include information about getting involved as a student. We know that some of you on here are high school students, some of you on here are college students, some of you all are the parents of high school students because your kids are in class right now, and we love how you're supporting your students by being here. And some of you work here at Nova or, just support our community in general. And so if you are aware of different opportunities, please make sure to share them in the chat. But we do know that there are things like the Virginia Community Criminal Justice Association, also with the blogs and information shared on Professor McMillan's page, and also that you'll see in the PowerPoint. She's provided us a ton of resources related to legal related associations that students can get involved in. Also, we've included human services links and as well as administration of justice programs. So just quickly to tell you a little bit about at Northern Virginia Community College, if anyone is interested, if you don't currently attend Nova or you do, but you're not, you maybe don't have a major, but you're interested in some of these areas that we're talking about today, this just gives you an overview of the different programs that we offer here. And so when you do receive the PowerPoint, again, it has clickable links that will take you to provide information about the Associates of Applied Science for the Administration of Justice program, or the Administration of Justice related to National Security, and CSC stands for Career Studies Certificate. So as you receive this information, if you're interested in learning more about these programs, please feel free. I do believe we also have one of our amazing deans on here, on this call as a participant, who, if you do have questions, please feel free to ask in the chat, and our dean from one of our campuses in these areas can help us with answering questions as well. And then we also have our paralegal studies, and we do have an Associates of Applied Science in our paralegal studies. And we are going to ask Professor McMillan if you wanted to talk a little bit about this program, because we know that you had provided a little bit of a handout for people that, again, they will have in their PowerPoint presentation.
Absolutely. So the Associate of Applied Science degree, it's sometimes called a terminal degree. What that means is when you complete the program, you're ready to go to work as a paralegal or legal assistant. But also students who are matriculating in our program, some of them say, I also want a 4-year degree. So all you have to do is add a few general studies courses. Then you now have an Associate of Applied Science and an associate's degree in general studies, and you can transfer to a 4-year. So absolutely, I teach all the courses in the curriculum. As Tiffany mentioned, there are national paralegal organizations you can join. There are local paralegal organizations you can join, and those are great for networking opportunities. Nova has a partnership with the Fairfax Bar Association Paralegal Section, and students are allowed to shadow paralegals. And I know you're saying, how do we do this in this environment? Well, most paralegals are working remotely, and so you could join in with them via Zoom and they can share some of the things they do in their day-to-day activities. We invite paralegals as guest speakers. We have career workshops that we put on almost every single year, and symposiums. At those workshops, students are allowed to submit a draft cover letter or resume. We have volunteers who are lawyers, paralegals, etc., that will view your draft resume or cover letter, give you a mock or pretend interview, and then give you suggestions for how to find a job in this area. So it is a great program. One other quick note, to not take up too much time, is our students consist of those freshly out of high school, like some of you, also students who have advanced in their career. They've retired from the government or something like that. They have a bachelor's already. They still get the paralegal degree. They have a master's in some instances, and those students generally are trying to go to law school. So it is a great all-around program for students from various backgrounds.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. So I'm going to actually stop sharing now so you can see a little bit more with our panelists here. and start to work through some of our questions. And one question I want to ask to get started, and then I'll have Banasha read some of the questions if we have there. But one of the questions, in this time, you know, it is very different right now than it was a year ago. How can our students, so Mary Beth, we see that you're in your office. We know, you know, you're in Virginia Beach, but, you know, are there still opportunities for students to do their internships or their experiences? We know Professor McMillan talked about how people can do some things remotely. Are there still opportunities in some locations to do things in person?
We had our summer associates. Those are law school students who have completed their first and/or second years of law school still come in for in-person opportunities. I know that that was not the same across the board. There were other firms that eliminated their programs or had their summer associates participate remotely. Occasionally, we'll have college students come in and intern. It's not quite the same experience because you haven't had any exposure to the study of law in law school, but that happens from time to time. But we are in person, aside from those of us who are immunocompromised or have other extenuating circumstances that require that you work from home. We are discovering, as I'm sure many of us are on this panel, discovering that technology can be your friend so long as it's working properly. And it's still able to facilitate a lot of the meetings that we would ordinarily have as a part of our days. It's maybe not quite the same as being in person, but it does allow a lot of flexibility, which I'm particularly grateful for, to still be able to move my clients' matters forward in court with virtual hearings, and still be able to communicate with other people and solve problems and stay connected. So it really is a beautiful thing, and I'm grateful for that.
Excellent. And Charlene, would you mind something that Mary Beth touched on? She said, you know, they're still able to move forward in their case with hearings and, you know, meeting with clients. How do you all deal with the confidentiality aspect? Let's say if you are now using Zooms or using maybe now phone calling instead of in-person meetings, how do you all try to cover their bases on that?
Well, with our clients, we are doing telework at home. Only our new clients are permitted to come into our building, and we have hours that we're doing that. We try to keep it to a minimum of 10 people a day, and with 30 probation officers working in our agency, we've had to split up the days that we also come into work as well. So we're each assigned 2 days out of the week. The clients that come in for the first interview or for their initial office visit, we meet with them one-on-one. Otherwise, unfortunately, our clients that we already have on our caseloads, we do deal with them by phone. As far as confidentiality is concerned, since we have somewhat of a rapport with those clients and we already know who they are and we've been working those cases, it makes it a little bit easier to communicate with them, which is the reason why when we have a new client, they have to physically come in so we get that initial appointment with them one-on-one, and then we switch them to phone contact. So it's confidential in the sense that we do know the clients that are currently on our caseload. So, you know, because we have that rapport with them and we've known them prior to COVID, then it makes it a little bit easier. It's still not the same as being able to sit with them in the office and, you know, basically have discussions on things that are concerning to them. So we're working with it. We've learned to become quite a bit creative in this unprecedented time.
Excellent. I think Banasha has a question from somebody, from an attendee.
Yes, so one of the attendees asked, I apologize, let me pull up. Yep. So can they also guide us on what Associates of Applied Science program can lead into which bachelor program in George Mason University? And I know we have Nancy, the Associate Dean, with us, who can better help us with this question.
So who would like to take on that one about you're a AAS at Nova, then going to Mason? Anyone? Raise your hand. Nancy or Joy, Professor McMillan?
Well, Nancy can go ahead if she'd like.
Hold on. You guys can't. Hold on.
We can be, she can be. So Joyce, why don't you talk first and then we'll let Nancy go in.
Okay, absolutely. So for the paralegal studies program, the way it specifically works, you have that AAS degree, Then you take the additional classes where you earn the Associates of Science degree, which is transferable. A lot of the students will take classes like, I think it's called Criminology. That's a degree at Mason. There's an advanced program at Nova where some of the paralegal studies courses will transfer to the courses at Mason, but students have taken a variety of different degrees, not just criminal law and legal studies, but political science, et cetera.
Okay, excellent. And so is it, Joyce, also, would you say that, do the students then need to just meet with their advisor to be able to maybe get some of that information or support for understanding?
100%.
But then also wherever they want to transfer to, they need to make sure they get that information too, correct?
Absolutely. I'm glad you shared that, Tiffany, because we do encourage all the paralegal students to always meet with their program advisors, which would be someone within the program, every semester before signing up for classes, so you can make sure you're taking the courses that lead you down the right path.
Excellent, thank you. Nancy, did you want to chime in?
Yeah.
We kind of hear you. You sort of sound far away.
Well, I don't know. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's okay. We have another question, Banafsha?
No, I was gonna speak.
Okay, so I'll go ahead with another question. So Luke, would you mind maybe sharing with us a little bit about, you are in New York, and we know that when it comes to things related to the pandemic that we all experienced, New York really experienced it, you know, early on and in higher numbers. How did that impact your ability to do your day-to-day work or working with clients or, you know, interacting with people? And how has that changed, if any, now?
Sure. So, you know, going back to, remember, I'm a career government guy who does process improvement work. So when I originally came into my position, one of the things that I did an assessment with my team on our technology functionality. So my staff is not only in New York City, but they're spread out throughout New York State in different regional offices. And part of the work that we do is going out to the community, is engaging with them, being, you know, pretty much bringing our office to them. And so I always had the mindset of, how do we make our office more virtual for the folks when we go out there, that they can just access information from a laptop and then we could transmit that back. So once I did that assessment, made a request to upgrade our technology, to having hotspots, to having, you know, sleek laptops and things like that, access to our remote access to our desktop, et cetera. IT and everyone looked at me as if I was crazy. And, you know, I had to do several rounds of budget justification just to get it done. And then COVID hit. And so my team was really the only one prepared to transition to a virtual model, because we had the tools, we had the connectivity, and we had the updated platforms that we already requested before that. So what really changed for us was, now that we have all of those technology items in place, how then do we broadcast, do the same outreach to our communities and broadcast through there? So we've done before, we've used WebEx as a platform before, but then Zoom started getting popular. And so what we decided to do is, you know what, if we can't do in-person engagement, in-person training, in-person conference meeting, why not just get on a Zoom platform like this? Our laptops have our cameras. We have all of the resources that we need. And let's continue our programming as if it would be in person, but electronically. And one of the things that I will say is participation was much higher, namely because, you know, we're dealing with business owners who literally 24/7 are trying to either sell their product, sell their service, you know, they're trying to generate revenue. And so the more and more that we do things that takes them away from that, the more that we're harming them. And so when we were able to not only give them a virtual experience where they could multitask, that was more, receptive. And then we also had the ability to record, and then they could replay at a later date. And so I think our impact has been really meaningful because we were able to do on-demand outreach for the businesses and our constituents that need it. Now, we still continue our in-person, very small. Once the governor gave us the clear on a percentage of how many people we can meet at one point, et cetera. We have been adjusting to that, but we also understand certain people's concerns, as well as, again, back to the overall issue of accessibility and time. And so it really has been helpful, and it's helped shape the way we deliver services to, again, going back to the Lean Six Sigma approach, what is more valuable to our constituents and our end users, as opposed to what have we always done? The in-persons won't work, so how do we make it more accessible to our end users who this is really about?
Excellent, thank you. And thank you for touching on those topics of accessibility as well. And I would say so this next question, which is, we can actually put in the chat part too. I think I can copy it in the chat, but this is for Cherno. Really this question is, what experiences can students seek out now, whether they're in high school, because we have some high school participants here, or if they're in college, if it's related to becoming, working in law enforcement, like as a police officer or the crime scene interest. What are some things that they could do to either get that experience or to stand out?
Yeah, most high schools are starting to teach criminal justice as a part of their curriculum now. So have them go through that channel to start taking those criminal justice classes and to get the exposure into the field. And secondly, also seek out internships with police departments that are offering them. And those internships are out there. They were limited because of COVID, but they are opening them up again for students to get that experience. And thirdly, as well, is just start taking the classes. There are two paths to go into crime scene investigation. The first path is a civilian path, and then the SWAN path. The civilian path is basically you bring in the experience, you pay the money, you get the experience, you take the classes, you do the lab work, you get the certification, and you come in and apply for a police department, and they will hire you as a civilian. But it's super competitive. However, the SWAN path is, the second path is the SWAN path, wherein you become a police officer first, go through all the requirements, become a police officer, and then after 2 years or 3 years, depending on the agency, then you can apply to be a crime scene analyst or a crime scene tech. And they will sponsor everything. They will pay for your training, they will pay for your background, your experience, and your certification. So it's either path. I went through the SWAN path, which was a little bit easier because I knew what I wanted to do. But the civilian path, you are competing against folks that are like retired police officers, and you're competing with folks that have worked and then they've taken a break in their job and then they've come back into policing. So you are competing with those folks. So you have to bring something on the application package when you're applying to those types of jobs. So internships helps a lot. Taking the classes at an early stage would give you the foundation to get into this field. Excellent,
thank you. And this next question is related to, and I'll try to type it in the chat here. And if each of our panelists could share kind of sort of your parting idea, or words of encouragement or wisdom. And so we're going to go through and I'll just call on each person. Someone can let me know who wants to go first, and then we'll kind of call on people from there to wrap up our last few minutes here. But really, what piece of advice would you give our attendees as they progress, either further into their education or into a potential future career? What advice or inspiration would you give them? Kind of like the 60-second elevator pitch version. Who would like to go first? Mary Beth, I saw, and Luke, like you both were like unmuted. They're like, yes,
Seek out a mentor or mentors. I think having mentors, and whether they be in the chosen field of interest, obviously if you pick somebody like that, they're going to be able to give you more specific guidance. But somebody who's essentially a sounding board and has done different things, and another grown up in your corner who can help direct you and maybe recognize talents or skills that you might not see in yourself, and say, hey, have you considered this? Have you thought about that? As you grow up, you have fewer and fewer of those people. You don't have a guidance counselor anymore, and it's really unfortunate because it would be wonderful to have a guidance counselor your whole life. But that's essentially the role that a mentor or sponsor serves as you progress, and you need it for your whole career. I mean, I even find at this point that I still have a couple people who I turn to and use as a sounding board, but I wish I had recognized it earlier on, because it's great to have someone or someones who fill that role for you.
Excellent. So seeking out mentors. Excellent. And I'm typing these things in the chat. Luke, would you like to go next?
Sure, and I agree wholeheartedly with Mary Beth as far as seeking out mentors. I'll even say two things. One, don't doubt yourself, meaning don't cancel yourself out before you even take a look at what it is that you're interested in. You'll be surprised there are a lot of opportunities that are out there that you can definitely do. You just got to put the work into it. The other piece is I encourage you to shadow or go and talk to someone in the field that you want to do, because you don't want to do all of the prep work to get there, and then you realize it's really not what it is, or you'll realize that it's not your passion, and that's years and money and time that's kind of wasted, where you could actually focus on something that you are passionate about.
Excellent. Thank you. How about Joyce?
Absolutely. I agree with everything everybody else said, but I also say do your research about that specific career path, because if your career path is the law, you want to know what direction you want to go in. Do you want to become a paralegal, or do you want to eventually go to law school like I did? What areas of the law are you interested in? And for those of you who are students at Nova, and I encourage all of you high school students to enroll at Nova, but talk to your professors who work in that field and ask them what their experiences were. So you can have a mini workshop like this, but one-on-one with your professors.
Excellent. Thank you. And how about, oh.
Sorry, I just want to add something as well for anyone who wants to, see what career path they want to go in and whatnot, and you're not sure, or if you do know exactly what you want to do, you can always come to these type of sessions where you're getting connections and you're widening your network. Because what you can always do is, from my personal experience, what I've noticed is if you get the connection from the very beginning, even if you have no experience or you have like minimal education, you would be surprised with how much going forward you can use those network connections. So I'll make sure you guys do that as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Banafsha. Banafsha wants to join y'all. So how about Cherno? And then Charlene, will have you close us out with the advice.
Yeah, sure. I just put mine in the chat, and I'm coming from the police point of view. The decisions you make today would affect you, your career path tomorrow. So that includes drug use, alcohol use, friends, social media accounts. And so the negative things that you embark upon today as a high school student or college student would be explored when you go apply for a criminal justice job. So think about that before you do anything that will affect you down the line. And for me, I literally printed out the job requirement applications that I had in the back of my mind every time I would go to school or go to work. So I would reflect on them to say, I do not want to do such and such because this job is looking for such and such. So just having that in your back of your mind would prevent you from getting to things that you cannot explain down the line.
Excellent. No, that was a great point about the decisions you make. I totally, I forgot about touching on that. Can have an impact now on your future later. Excellent. And then Charlene. You're still muted, Charlene. No, we can't hear you. You're still muted. Nope. She's still unmuted. So maybe
Okay,
Charlene.
I'm sorry. I was stuck. I apologize I was trying to unmute myself.
Uh-oh. Ah. So Charlene, if you can hear us, we can't hear you. It's actually stuck. But if you are able to hear us and can type in the chat, I'm sure she had something super profound and amazing to share. So, and it looks like we may have lost her. So, well, we are right at our.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure how you lost me. My computer just shut down.
Okay.
And I'll be really quick because I know the interest of time. I would say that when you consider a career much like mine in law enforcement, to think about whether or not you do that for no pay. I think it's important for people not to think about their salary as they consider their careers and more think about the passion. We don't make a whole lot of money, but we do work to better the community and work with people that have experienced things that most people don't on a regular basis. So I would say to definitely think about whether or not you do this career passionately and not care how much you're paid, and as well to find someone that you can mentor, that can mentor you, as well as an internship or volunteering at a local law enforcement agency. A lot of times they have community events where they need volunteers desperately to get out, of course not now during COVID, but under normal circumstances, to volunteer, and even call up and see whether or not you can intern in the agency, to get a chance to see exactly what we do on a day-to-day basis. So I apologize again for being cut off, but that would be my advice to you. And I wish everyone well who is considering working within any of these areas of law enforcement. All of these wonderful people on this panel have great careers, and you're definitely on the right path if that's what you're considering. I think all of the advice that's given was great. So bunch of things to take notes on.
Excellent. And again, we just want to say thank you so much to everyone who participated today. Thank you to all of our amazing panelists. And I definitely want to share with you all that this is a panel of amazing professionals. When we put the call out with some of our connections to ask for some people to serve on this panel, these names were given to us right away. And then when we said, hey, we need to have a little planning session, can you all give feedback on the PowerPoint? They did this in like record time. So these are some amazing people who could be great mentors for you, or someone to shadow, or to do an informational interview with, or to just, send an email and ask a question. Again, we will be sending out the information to everyone who has expressed interest in signing up for the session. Even if they weren't unable to attend, they will get the PowerPoint, which will have the bios and have the contact information. And thank you all again so much for giving up your time today on this Tuesday afternoon with our students at Northern Virginia Community College and our students in our high school communities and our community in this area. And we thank you all again so much for your time.